I heard the question and the responses from the leaders on the issue of their personal connection to understanding white privilege in the debate. And I found that the question was a little bit lacking, and as a result, we got kind of a bit of answers that I think were also lacking. And part of it is that we have started to adopt a practice of privilege checking as a way of indicating, a level of understanding about an issue, but we don't have the substantive debates or conversations around what a party leader or a government by one of these parties would do on the issue of racism in the context of oppression that are being experienced by particular communities. And so I think that the question was a little bit lacking, which led to a bunch of kind of funny responses that I think probably didn't, probably came off as insensitive to some. But I think it also just speaks to what are the types of questions that we're holding leaders accountable to, and is privilege actually a framework for holding leaders accountable that's productive or useful? And I think that we're seeing this more and more in our political discourse, but I think we're sidestepping the more substantive issues and the questions that I think need to be asked of the leaders. I learned that in that particular moment, the level of understanding or sophisticated understanding of things like privilege and how it intersects with the issues of racism in one particular circumstance, I think it showed in that moment a lack of sophisticated understanding about the issue, but it's also, I think, a challenge to know whether that's actually a substantive kind of answer to the broader issue around what these leaders and their parties and potentially their governments would do if they had power to address those issues. I don't know if understanding their level of sophistication is actually going to be illustrative of what I think voters should actually be paying attention to, which is if you have an issue in our society where a particular group of people are experiencing oppression and leaders have the power to do something about it, we should be asking them what they're going to do about it, not what is their personal story about a particular privilege that they might have experienced in their life. When I think about political leaders in an election, it's a wonderful time for the public to understand both where our leaders and their team is on a particular issue and how they would seek to address it, or if they do even have a plan to address that particular issue. I think all the parties and all the leaders do need to be asked very strong questions around what exactly is their political agenda to address things like systemic racism within our province, within sectors that the province directly has control and influence over. And we've seen this recently as an example around direct evidence of anti-Indigenous racism within our healthcare system, both here in BC and across the country. And that is a type of oppression that is targeted at a group of people because of the color of their skin, that is not just a once occasion or by happenstance, but common throughout a system across many different places and structures within that system. And so there's an example, but and that's one example of one particular type of oppression that we see in our society right now. But I think the leaders and the parties need to be asked, what exactly is your plan to address this issue? When do you seek to have it addressed by? And how are you as a leader of your party going to lead the province to taking on those issues? And I think anti-Indigenous racism within the healthcare system is one example. There's a number of others. But I think that those types of questions are really important and substantive to understanding who are these leaders, what are they going to do for us, and what can we hold them accountable to? That if they promise us things, that in 4 years when there's another election, we actually have something to be able to hold them accountable to. I can't hold a leader accountable in 4 years when they tell me a story about their own experience with personal privilege or white privilege. I think it's actually the substantive material and structural changes that need to be put on the table and discussed and debated.